A new class period, and at the end of the last period, we had our assignment 2 due, right? So that means we're on to a new unit module. Always good to check with your course outline, either your printout or the one on the homepage here, and see what's in store for us the next few classes. What is different is we are moving away from assignments for a brief moment and putting our focus on reflecting on the skills we've learned and then trying to master them. Through understanding and reflection on the choices we made with our compositing for the landscape and for the creature, we do what's called a proving ground. And so you'll see that for today's date, February 19th. We are going to go into Unit 6 and work on proving ground number 1. We're also going to start picking topics for our group presentations. You'll notice that the proving ground is only worth 1.5 points. The assignments we've done so far, 1 and 2, are only worth 3 points using this grading rubric. So we're getting used to these mechanics. Remember, the course is worth 100 points. So sometimes students will get really upset by getting a 2 on an assignment because they felt, I've met all the requirements, it was a quick deadline, we go so fast, right? Because they see a 2 as a 66% on an assignment. And that is true. 2 out of 3 points is 66%. Would feel much better to have 3 out of 3 points, 100%, right? But when you think of the class as being 100 points and an assignment being a 3 versus a 2 being a 1 percentage point difference, right? You could get a 2 on all 7 of these 3-point assignments in the semester and still get a 93% in the class, right? Without any extra credit. So the difference between a 2 and a 3 is not all that big to your overall grade, but it can be huge in terms of your portfolio. So when you get a 3 on a project, that is something that you are working towards, right? Above average effort to make it a portfolio piece, which means it shouldn't have any areas in it that look weaker than any other areas. And sometimes, even if I give it a 3 based on our skill level and what we've been doing so far, you might want to go back and show your mastery later on in the semester to make that even better before we print it as one of your portfolio pieces. So the 2, when I give you a 2, instead of focusing just on those points, read my comment and see if there's any truth in the comment about what can be improved, right? Now, I ask you always to follow the first rule, which is do your best. The second rule is do what I ask you. So I ask a lot of you in my comments about what to check. So for this creature, it was check that your internal edges are blended believably. Check that the lighting sources make sense, that the color, makes sense throughout. That the external edges are sharp and not soft, right? That kind of thing. That's a lot that I'm asking you to do. But the only thing you can do is your best. So if you don't agree with all the things I said in terms of it being your best project, then do the things that you think will make it your best project. And if you make it your best project sincerely with your growing skills, and it comes time for our midterm, and you have to choose projects to print, and you print it even though I only said it got a 2, then it's a portfolio project for you because it's your best, right? But I suspect, as usually happens, you will see ways as your skills build to improve it and make it a portfolio project you're more proud of. And at that point, you resubmit it using the directions I give you in my assignment comment, and then you'll get a 3 on that project, right? Because you pushed it towards not having any of those weak spots that it had originally. The main tip is when you resubmit is do not delete your oldest post, right? Because I want to be able to see that improvement. And it's good for you to see that improvement as well. All right, so this is how assignments work. So now we're used to that. And the most important thing is just meeting the assignment deadlines so that you can improve it, can continue it. Now we are doing a proving ground. And a proving ground is only worth 1.5 points, but it has 3 very specific rubric criteria that have to be met. And that's because the proving ground is for your creative problem solving badge. Yes, it gives you 1.5 points out of 100 points towards credit in the class and towards your college degree. But separate from that, if you get full marks on all 4 proving grounds, right, even though those will total up to 4 times 1.5, not a whole lot of points, but that earns you your creative problem solving badge. But they're very specific. And creative problem solving is a national 21st century skills badge. In creative problem solving, it's one of the least that is claimed, and shown. So it's one of the most desirable, especially in creative fields. And you put it on your digital resume, you put it on your LinkedIn. It's got external verified knowledge, skills, and abilities that it demonstrates that you have, right? Just like a college degree. College degrees have accrediting boards. The certificates have what are called badge certifiers that are external. That's why it's called a proving ground. That's not my chosen language. That's the language it's required to have. And the rubric, I get to choose how we measure that rubric and how we demonstrate it, but I don't get to write the rubric or what has to be demonstrated. So, proving ground's a little bit different than an assignment or an exercise. And then we're also going to pick topics for our group presentation. Okay, that's all there is to it. Your presentation is worth 5 points. That's 5% of your grade. So some of you might think, oh, I do presentations for all of my classes eventually. I don't need to worry about that. Well, this is one that's going to relate to this digital art practice. And we have 2 presentations. One that is with the group at the midterm, and then one that you do individually at the end of the semester, both worth 5 points. So in total, they're worth 10% of your grade, which is enough to change your grade up or down, right? You will practice the skills all together with your good writer, with your public speaker, with your responsible leader, and your computer literate person in your group, right? So you're going to help each other learn the skills through this group presentation so that you can each succeed at it individually at the end. And what's great about the group presentations and important is this is how you bring things from the outside world into the class to help understand digital media and digital imaging. So you're going to pick a topic that your group can agree upon that's unique, and you're going to start that today. And if you want more information about that, that is in Unit 8. And we will be giving these presentations on March 19th, right? No, sorry, on March 24th. So it's going to seem like a long way away. But before spring break, which is coming up quick, we definitely want to know what your topic is, and you want to have a shell built so that you can start bringing in external research into that group. So that's why we started today. All right. So let's jump in with this proving ground. Remember, we always follow that course outline. So we're going to find it in Unit 6, Proving Ground 1. And I call it a creaturescape creation reflection. So part of this is combining assignment 1 and 2, putting our fantasy creature into a landscape, making a creaturescape, and making that believable, right? It's just compositing with other people's pixels, except this time the other people's pixels are the pixels that we've already made from other people's pixels. So now instead of just thinking them as random pixels we found, now we think of them as assets. And assets are what you call in a digital workflow, whether it's fine art or commercial, of the different tools you use to make the project you want. Not even tools, the different assets, the different parts of the project. So we have 2 very simple assets that we've worked to create. With assignment 1, we created a setting, which is like a backdrop of a play. And with assignment 2, we created a character. So we have a character asset, we have a setting asset. And to blend them, we need to place the creature into that setting. But it's not just about creating the creaturescape. It's about reflecting on that creation and on those composites. And, where possible, improving both of them as we go. So if you've been just plowing through these assignments, just with the finish line, you might not have had the chance to reflect back on choices you could have made or things you could have tried, right? This will give you that chance to reflect on it. And it's all towards solving creative problems. So there's a lot of things we're going to be learning in this. And the main thing is that we're developing not just an understanding of or an introductory use of, but a mastery of the basics of compositing. So we're not doing a 3-level advanced compositing yet. right? That gets very, very specific. What we're doing is we're trying to get really good at the stuff we have been introduced to, which is making good selections, controlling the edges, playing with lighting, playing with highlights, shadows, playing with the color temperature, and just dialing that in so we have full control of it. We're going to really focus and reflect on using layers in an appropriate way, right? And we're going to start blending our different image formats or digital formats together. So we'll work in a PSD, but we'll bring in a PNG element, and then we'll output it as a JPEG. So that's PSD, PNG, and JPEG. We need to use all three for this project. We need to understand why. We're going to become familiar with something new, which are non-destructive overlay layers. Because if we have assets that we've created, like a creature, like a setting, we don't want to screw those up in using them for a specific use, like this creaturescape. We want to keep them safe, use them for the specific use, but also not screw them up, right? So that's what's called non-destructive editing. And we need to know how to add additional texture and atmosphere, what are called texture overlays. And that's going to improve our landscape greatly. We're going to show the mist in the air. We're going to show the layering of the atmosphere into the background in a way that will really add to our 3 layers of depth. And if you saw on assignment 1, that was something I said in a lot of comments, is that we haven't learned texture overlays yet, but that's really going to help to soften some of these transitions. So now we get to the stuff that's specific for the rubric for the Creative Problem Solving badge. We have to make sense of the data. That's the badge's requirement. So for the data we really need to understand is the resolution, the pixel resolution, and how that relates to the real world product presentation we can do. Whether it's good enough for print resolution or just for screen resolution. And we have to label it as such. We're going to recognize commonalities among seemingly unrelated situations, which means no matter how we designed our creature from whatever resources, no matter how we designed our landscape from whatever references, we are going to make the lighting and the pose angle of the anatomy of our creature match the setting we put it into, even if they're the most ridiculous things possible. Like if I did a jellyfish mixed with a seahorse, and my setting is a rocky desert, right? I have to figure out how to angle the anatomy of that jellyfish seahorse to make sense on that landscape of a rocky desert. And I have to match its lighting and its shadows and its direction and its color temperature to fit that scene, right? Because there are common things we will find even in the most ridiculous mashups, like putting a 3D gecko onto a kitchen table, right, for a Geico commercial. These are the kind of skills that compositing gives you. And then we're going to frame novel problems in familiar terms. So novel means new. And the new problems we have is once we put this weird creature into this unique environment, we have to start making sense of it. We need to find a way to basically bullshit. And that's a big part of creative work, is coming up with reasons why they belong together. And we're going to do this through writing for this project. We are going to answer this question. How does your creature interact with its environment, right? You're going to tell us how your creature eats, how it breathes, what its predators are, how it protects itself, whatever kind of weird commonalities you can find with it in its setting, with like that jellyfish seahorse in the desert, and you're going to BS. You're going to make those connections, and you're going to argue why that's true, right? And that's going to help you make better decisions about blending it visually. All right, so past instructor and student examples will help us understand that, because this is not just an image assignment. The image is just 1/3 of it, right? This has 3 components, and these are the 3 components. 1, 2, 3. The first is we're going to put our creature in our background, and we're going to make it look believable through a lot of the same skills we've learned, and then adding a few more. Then we're going to identify,